If you are a Nottingham Forest fan, I assume you're reading this from a waiting room. It's either a cardiologist's office, a therapist's couch, or a legal consultation regarding a lawsuit against a referee. Because let's be honest, nobody chooses this life for the stability. Supporting Nottingham Forest isn't just a hobby, it's a decades-long psychological experiment to see how much stress the human body can endure before it spontaneously combusts. For 23 years, an entire generation, you were the sleeping giant of English football. You were the terrifying cautionary tale parents told their children. Eat your vegetables, Timmy, or you'll end up like Forest. Massive history, huge stadium, stuck in the Championship forever. Then you finally got promoted. You reached the promised land. And what happened? Did you find peace? Did you find joy? No. You found VAR checks, points deductions, and an owner who treats the transfer market like he's playing Football Manager after 4 shots of ouzo. You are the only club in the world that can win the Champions League twice and still feel like the underdog in a match against Bournemouth. You're a club defined by glory days that happened before the internet existed, and a present day defined by chaotic statements on Twitter, X, accusing officials of conspiracies. So, put on your Garibaldi red, whisper a prayer to the ghost of Brian Clough, and let's explore why supporting this club is a beautiful, beautiful nightmare. This is why it sucks to be a Nottingham Forest fan. 1. The burden of the miracle men, or we won it twice, you know. The scenario. It's a Saturday night. You're at the pub, arguing with a Chelsea or Manchester City fan. They're mocking your current league position or your XG, expected goals, from the last match. You feel the rage building. You know you shouldn't do it. You know it's a cliché. You know it makes you look like an old man yelling at clouds. But you can't stop yourself. You slam your pint down and scream the 5 words that define your entire personality. We won it 2 times. Here is the tragic reality of being a Forest fan. Your peak was so astronomically high that everything else feels like a failure. Between 1978 and 1980, Brian Clough and Peter Taylor took a provincial second-tier team and turned them into the Kings of Europe, back-to-back European Cups. It is genuinely the greatest story in the history of club football, but that story is the millstone around your neck. Every manager who walks through the door at the City ground is immediately measured against a man who was literally a genius. It's unfair. It's like dating someone new and constantly comparing them to your ex, who happened to be an astronaut, a supermodel, and the inventor of the cure for polio. Yeah, Nuno is okay, you say. But did he win the European Cup with a squad made up of rejects and hard men? I didn't think so. You are haunted by the miracle men. You have statues of them. You have stands named after them. You have banners. But for the vast majority of the fan base under the age of 45, those trophies are just folklore. You didn't see John Robertson destroy Malmo. You saw Gary Megson. You lived through the League One days. You watched your team lose to Yeovil Town in the playoffs. Yet, you are required by law to act as the custodian of a history you only saw on YouTube. It sucks because this history creates an expectation of big club status that the modern reality rarely matches. In football terms, Nottingham Forest is the fading Hollywood starlet. You used to be on the cover of every magazine. You used to date the hottest celebrities. Now, you're doing reality TV commercials for car insurance, but you still demand a private dressing room and blue M&Ms. The rest of the league looks at you and sees a team fighting relegation. You look in the mirror and see the Kings of Europe. This cognitive dissonance creates a permanent state of frustration. You feel you belong in the top 6, but your bank balance and your recent history suggest you belong in a scrap with Ipswich. Being a Forest fan is like being British royalty. You have a fancy title, a massive house, and everyone knows your name. But you have absolutely no power, your family is dysfunctional, and you spend most of your time trying not to embarrass yourself in public. 2. The Evangelos Marinakis experience, chaos theory in human form. You wake up on a Tuesday morning. It's a quiet week. No midweek game. You think, finally a few days of peace. You check your phone. You have 45 notifications. Your heart sinks. What happened? Did you sign a player? Did you fire a manager? Did the owner just throw his accreditation badge into a hedge? Welcome to life under Evangelos Marinakis. Since the Greek shipping magnate took over, boredom has been eradicated from the dictionary in Nottingham. This is a man who operates on a frequency that normal humans cannot comprehend. Let's look at the strategy. Upon promotion to the Premier League, Most teams sign maybe 4 or 5 key players to strengthen the squad. Prudent, smart, cohesive. Forest, you signed 30 players. 3-0, you signed an entire new village. You signed so many players that the kitman probably had to start putting numbers on the cleaning staff just in case they were needed for a Carabao Cup tie. The dressing room must have looked like a freshers mixer at a university, where nobody speaks the same language. And then there's the managerial carousel. You loved Steve Cooper. He was the messiah. He looked like he hadn't slept since 2004, but he got you up. The fans adored him. So, naturally the narrative for 6 months was that he was getting sacked every time he lost a game. When he finally went, in came Nuno Espirito Santo, a man who looks like he's constantly grieving a lost pet. But the cherry on top, the wars with the establishment, the hiring of Mark Clattenburg as a referee analyst, which is basically hiring a mercenary to yell at the cops for you. The infamous tweet accusing the VAR official of being a Luton Town fan. You aren't just a football club anymore. You're a conspiracy thriller directed by Oliver Stone. It sucks because you have zero control. Supporting Forest under Marinakis is like being a passenger in a Ferrari driven by a man who is legally blind but extremely rich and very angry. Is the car fast? Yes. Does it look expensive? Yes. Are you terrified that he's going to drive it off a cliff because he thinks the GPS is lying to him? Absolutely. The ambition is undeniable. He puts the money in. But the method? The method is throw everything at the wall, and if the wall doesn't stick, sue the wall builder. It makes every transfer window a panic attack and every press release a potential PR disaster. Other fans worry about their team's formation or injuries. Forest fans wake up every morning checking the news to see if their owner has inadvertently started a diplomatic incident or bought the entire Olympiacos B team just to fill out the bench. 3. The Tinfoil Hat Brigade, or the war against the PGMOL. It is the 88th minute. A cross comes in. Your striker, through some divine intervention, actually connects with the ball. It hits the back of the net. The city ground erupts. You hug a stranger. You spill your Bovril. For a fleeting second, pure serotonin floods your brain. And then, you stop. You see the referee touch his earpiece. You see the finger go up. The dread sets in. You don't celebrate goals anymore. You file a preliminary application for permission to feel happiness, subject to a review by a man in a van in Stockley Park who may or may not support Luton Town. Every team thinks the referees hate them. But Nottingham Forest fans, you have the receipts, you have the PowerPoint presentations, you basically have a designated legal team just for Monday mornings. The 2023-2024 season wasn't a football season, it was a paranoid thriller. We have to talk about the tweet. You know the one. Following a loss to Everton where 3 clear penalties were denied, the official club account, an account usually reserved for birthday wishes and ticket news, posted a statement accusing the VAR official Stuart Atwell of being a Luton Town fan. It was unhinged, it was unprofessional, and for every Forest fan it was violently cathartic. You became the first club in history to effectively dox a referee on main. Then came the hiring of Mark Clattenburg as a referee analyst, a job title that didn't exist until you invented it. His job was essentially to stand in the tunnel and glare at the officials like a bouncer at a nightclub, only to quit a few months later because the vibes were too rancid even for him. You collect PGMOL apologies like they are Pokemon cards. We are sorry we missed that handball. We are sorry we missed that red card. You could wallpaper the Trent end with apologies from Howard Webb, but apologies don't give you points. They just give you high blood pressure and a deep, abiding trust issue with anyone wearing black. It sucks because it turns the sport into a conspiracy theory. You can't just watch a match and say, we played badly. You have to analyse frame by frame Zapruder films of a handball in the box. It robs you of the simplicity of the game. When you support Forest, you feel like the protagonist in a Kafka novel. You're screaming the truth. That was a penalty! But the authority figures just stare at you blankly, dock you points, and fine you for complaining. It creates a siege mentality where it's us against the world, which is great for motivation but terrible for your ulcer. Most fans check the starting lineup before a game. Forest fans check the referee appointments, cross-reference their birthplaces with rival clubs, and scan their family trees for any connections to the Merseyside area. You aren't fans, you're private investigators with a drinking problem. 4. The accountant's league table, the PSR nightmare. You've just won a game, a massive 3 points away from home. You look at the league table, you're 5 points clear of the relegation zone. You breathe a sigh of relief. But wait, a news notification pops up. The Athletic is reporting a breach of Profit and Sustainability Rules, PSR. Suddenly the league table is meaningless. You have to pull out a calculator, a spreadsheet, and a copy of the Premier League rulebook just to figure out if you're actually safe. Nottingham Forest didn't just battle other teams last season. You battled forensic accountants. The dreaded 4-point deduction. It hung over the club like a dark cloud for months. You were playing games not knowing what they were worth. The tragedy of this system is that it forced you to sell your soul. To pass these arbitrary financial purity tests, clubs are incentivized to sell pure profit assets. For Forest, that meant selling Brennan Johnson to Tottenham. Let that sink in. You had a local boy, a kid who grew up with the club, whose dad played for the club, who was the face of the promotion charge. He was the Prince of Nottingham. And you had to sell him, not because he wanted to leave or because he wasn't good enough, but because a spreadsheet said you needed to balance the books to pay for the 30 mercenaries you signed the summer before. Watching Brennan Johnson score for Spurs while you struggled to score a goal was a specific type of torture designed exclusively for the modern football fan. It sucks because it dehumanises the club. Football is supposed to be about passion, glory and local identity. PSR turns it into a corporate compliance seminar. We use metaphors like war chest and financial muscle, but the reality is just sad. You aren't cheering for goals anymore. You're cheering for the amortization of transfer fees over a 5-year contract. You find yourself arguing on Twitter about accounting periods and allowable losses instead of whether your striker can finish his dinner. It sucks the romance right out of the room and replaces it with a tax audit. Being a Forest fan means celebrating a 1-0 win, then immediately checking if the club sold enough hot dogs at halftime to avoid a points deduction next year. 5. The goalkeeper carousel, or who is wearing the gloves today. The opposition striker takes a shot. It's a routine save, a training ground catch. You look at your goalkeeper, you pause, you squint. You realise you don't actually know who that man is. Is it the American guy from last week? Is it the Greek guy from Tuesday? Is it a Champions League winner who is only here on vacation? For most clubs, the goalkeeper is the rock. For Nottingham Forest, the goalkeeper position is a revolving door installed on a tilt-a-whirl. Let's look at the timeline. You finally get promoted with Bryce Samba, the hero of the penalty shootout, the man who literally carried you to the Premier League with pure swagger. He is a cult hero. So naturally he leaves immediately because the contract offer was apparently written on the back of a napkin with a crayon. Panic ensues. You loan Dean Henderson. He's great. Then he gets injured, so you sign Keylor Navas. Yes, that Keylor Navas, a 3-time Champions League winner playing for Nottingham Forest. It felt like seeing the Pope working a shift at a Greggs. It was surreal, it was confusing, and it was temporary. Then came the Matt Turner era. A lovely guy, a patriot. But watching him play out from the back was like watching a bomb disposal robot trying to knit a sweater. The collective heart rate of the City ground spiked every time the ball went near his feet. So you panic bought Odysseas Vlachodimos, who played about 5 minutes before the manager realised he'd made a terrible mistake. Then you bought Matt Sells. Then you bought Carlos Miguel, who was approximately 7 feet tall and looks like he was created in a lab to stop shots. Yet somehow the anxiety remains. You have spent more money on goalkeepers in 3 years than some countries spend on defence. You collect shot stoppers like a chaotic magpie, hoping one of them will magically turn into Peter Shilton. It sucks because the goalkeeper is supposed to be the safety blanket. When that position is chaotic, the panic infects the whole stadium. You can't relax. Every back pass is a potential blooper reel. Every cross is a gamble. When you change goalkeepers every 6 months, the defence doesn't know who to trust. It creates a vibe of permanent instability. You aren't building a team, you're auditioning strangers. It's the football equivalent of speed dating, but instead of finding love, you're just trying to find someone who won't drop the ball into their own net against Luton. At this point, Nottingham Forest shouldn't even list a goalkeeper on the squad sheet. They should just list current occupant of the 18-yard box, because by the time you buy the jersey, that guy will probably be sold to a Turkish mid-table team. 6. The Big Six imposter syndrome, or we are massive, please respect us. You're playing Manchester United or Chelsea. You beat them. It's incredible. You sing Mull of Kintyre until your lungs give out. The atmosphere is electric, you feel like you've arrived. Then the next week you play a team like Brentford or Fulham at home, a game you should win. a game you need to win, and what happens? You turn into a Sunday League team that forgot to warm up. You lose 3-0. You look at the table and realise that beating the big teams is meaningless if you insist on being charitable to everyone else. This is the Robin Hood complex of Nottingham Forest. You steal points from the rich and give them to the poor, or the relegation rivals. Forest has a weird habit of playing up to the occasion and down to the competition. You can produce a tactical masterclass against Liverpool at Anfield, looking like a European powerhouse. The tactical discipline is immense. The counter-attacks are lethal. You look like geniuses. 7 days later, you play a team in the relegation zone, and suddenly, your players look like they've just met each other in the car park 5 minutes before kickoff. The tactical discipline evaporates. The passing resembles a pinball machine. It's the inconsistency that kills you. And then, there is the media narrative. No matter what Forest does, the pundits, Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, the lot, talk about you with a tone of mild annoyance. When you win, it's because the other team played badly. When you lose, it's naive. When you sign players, it's scattergun. You are the unwanted guest at the Premier League dinner party. You're loud, you're messy, your owner is scary, and everyone just wishes you'd go back to the Championship so Leeds or Leicester can come back. It sucks because you are desperate for respect that never comes. The big 6 clubs look down on you. The other clubs think you're cheating, or just financially doping. You are isolated. This fuels the victim complex, sure, but it's also exhausting. You just want to be a normal, stable Premier League club. But normal and stable are not in the DNA of this club. You're destined to oscillate between moments of breathtaking brilliance and moments of absolute farce. Supporting Forest is like owning a tiger as a pet. It's cool, it's dangerous, and people are impressed when they see it. But deep down, you know it's eventually going to bite your arm off when you try to feed it cheap meat. So there you have it. To be a Nottingham Forest fan is to live in a constant state of high alert anxiety. You are trapped between a glorious past that you can never replicate and a chaotic present that makes no sense. You have an owner who treats the club like a fantasy draft, a legal team that works harder than the midfield, and a fan base that oscillates between we're winning the league and we're going down every 45 minutes. Your heart rate is permanently elevated. Your weekends are ruined by VAR lines drawn by a guy in a van. You have nightmares about amortization. But you keep going back. You keep singing Mull of Kintyre, because despite the madness, the lawsuits and the stress, nobody does drama quite like the Tricky Trees. It's a miserable, beautiful, chaotic life. But hey, at least we aren't Derby County. Subscribe for more trauma bonding, football analysis,